Who knows what's going on with the intro? Welcome to the fucking show, guys.
Welcome to
We're
the
talking
fucking
about
show.
psychics.
And into the world of psychic illusion.
Psychic illusion. It's I would say that's a good word to put with it. It is just the same thing as illusionist. You know, David Copperfield has the same skill set that any fucking psychic has.
I mean, that's all the PC psychics out there. They're illusionists now.
Let's go back to the origins, I guess, of quote-unquote psychics. Psychics is kind of more of a new age term, where it was sort of seen as more like seers or
Oracles.
Oracles, yeah, exactly. Shamans kind of fall into this mix. It's a theme that's been going through history of people that are able to sort of I don't even know.
But isn't there a difference between like shaman and with this new psychic where shamans aren't trying to, I guess, predict the future or tell somebody about a loved one who's passed on? Shamans, it's a little bit different role.
It is, yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's still, to me, in the same kind of vein of somebody who has supposed powers that the normal person doesn't have. Like shamans traditionally have still been able to not necessarily talk and commune with the dead, but they can. I think that's one of the fundamental problems behind the quote unquote psychic nowadays is they're immediately sort of granted by a group of people this sort of authority or this person is on another level,
yeah,
spiritually or mentally or psychically or whatever. But the shaman implies more of like deep wisdom and ancestral knowledge and just an aura of I don't know, more of a serious, like in tune kind of person, whereas the modern day psychic, I don't know if it's culturally or just that people, I don't know, maybe capitalism.
Well, there's the con artist, right? The con artist psychic, right?
Yeah, and that's much
kind
more
of like along the lines of like those fundamentalist televangelist people, like, oh, I can hear the good Lord, give me your money. Yeah.
And I say to you, bow down before Jesus, and that devil will be crawling on his belly, praying that the Lord shows him mercy, but the Lord doesn't show mercy to the serpent. Can I get an amen?
Exactly.
You're supposed to say amen.
Yeah, that's me throwing the ball back, and I'm not doing that today.
That's the call and response, man. Come on, we're like two blues musicians. I give a phrase, you got to give one back.
Fair.
No, I was actually I'm glad you sort of brought that up because I think those two things are linked. Like first of all, most of the people that I think sort of believe in the modern day psychic and are going to go get a psychic reading fall in the same category as the people that are, in the evangelical system. And, I don't know. I'm flubbing my words horribly right now because I drank way too much coffee and I'm way too pumped up. And yeah, the fingers, whatever, dude. Quit pointing them out to me because it makes me feel insecure when you fucking tell me about them. It's unconscious. It's just this thing that I fucking do. When
I think you're doing great, buddy.
Thanks, man. No, but I do think there's a serious crossover between the evangelical or like the Pentecostal, like the really hardcore churchgoers, and then also they're also the same people that are believing in these like psychics and sort of believing in this sort of mysticism that's going on, which is kind of interesting, but it also makes perfect sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. They're just I mean, feeding might be a bit of a fucked up word, but they're just feeding off like the fears and anxieties of a very common feeling that we all have of like what happens after death, or like, losing a loved ones, like things that make life like really hard to fucking cope with.
Yeah. And also, I mean, not to make a blanketed statement, but a huge majority, maybe not a majority, but a huge percentage of the people that are sort of engaging with those susceptible people are doing it at just a huge financial gain. The Joel Osteens of the world, these mega churches that pop up, and then also
right, they find the loophole where they don't have to fucking pay taxes.
That's just an added benefit. Whereas the psychics are doing the same thing, but they're being idiots about it because they're still
fucking amateurs, man. Fucking amateurs, dude.
If you were so psychic, wouldn't you understand? Wouldn't you see that you would have to pay taxes on this in the future and just start a fucking religion? L. Ron Hubbard.
Should have seen this shit coming, man.
Yeah. Fucking dude. Drop the ball on that one for sure. But yeah, I do think that's a very interesting fucking link between those two worlds. But it's also such a bizarre link because, so going back to like the sort of, not necessarily the origins, but like the more established version of spiritualism came in like the mid to late 1800s with people like, Madame Helena Blavatsky from the Ukraine. It came from a number of other people in, the origins of like the psychic below through the 1900s comes essentially from the occult. It comes from like reading tarot cards and almost like a witchcraft kind of sense, which is very fucking interesting that now these two worlds have ended up colliding with each other in like the late 20th century and like the early 21st century.
Well, of course they did. I mean, like, and the occult, had to work underground for a very long time, right? So it's not until like, the mid to late, probably late 19th centuries when they were able to just kind of be like, yeah, we're doing this, out in the open. They used to have to like hide. And so like, when they come out in the open, they get more followers, and that probably naturally butts them up against the Pentecostals and all those crazy fuckers.
Well, but I mean, the only reason why witchcraft, we know more about quote unquote witchcraft from tales like the Salem witch trials than we do from anything else. So it's almost like the two ideas are feeding into each other.
Oh, we know more about witchcraft from the propagandists because it was fucking propaganda, man.
Yeah.
No such thing as witchcraft. There's people tripping balls and going and fucking in the woods and having a great time.
Fair.
Heads up, my melted glob of edibles just kicked in, and so I'm up there right now.
Already.
I'm just gonna tell you, buddy.
You're gonna tell me? Are we starting to let me tell you right now?
Oh no. No. I was just I'm letting you know where I am just in case the conversation seems off. It's just because I'm pretty ripped.
Fair enough.
Anyways,
this is I would say a pretty good I feel like all of our episodes are pretty good episodes to be totally ripped on talking about, but this one is still definitely within that context, so I think you're all good. I'm
looking up this I forget, there's this like document that was written in Europe, I think during the times of the Inquisition, that was like a law passed out and taught like the church how to hunt for witches. And it's really fascinating. I'm going to try to pull it up. You may have to edit this out while I look for it, but I think it's really a good part of the conversation. What the fuck is it? I want to say it's called like the witch's hammer.
Well, while we're sort of talking, or while you're looking that up, I guess we can just, I don't know, talk about witches and shit. I guess from my understanding, the idea of like tarot cards and astrology are all sort of woven in within this broad umbrella statement of witchcraft. And what it really is just it's a different way of viewing the natural world. And the reason why it was so demonized was essentially because of the Catholic Church, taking power and just wanting to gain control over the populace, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's human nature.
Yeah.
And rejecting other notions or ideas. And I do kind of find it interesting that from at least an experiential point of view, a lot of us can often feel like we have psychic powers in the way of like sort of just intuition. You know what I mean? Like there is scientific research that says that if somebody is staring at you intently, even if they're not in your field of vision, you kind of feel that somebody is staring at you.
And I mean, would that fall under psychic ability, or that just be your senses and intuition? Like that's just millions of years of DNA embedded in your system to help you figure out that fucking communication as you walk around the world trying to not get eaten.
Well, that's kind of what I was sort of getting at, is like,
cool.
What are the definitions of psychic abilities versus just gut instinct and intuition? Because they can be woven together. You know what I mean? Because like,
okay,
I've had a lot of times where I have a gut feeling about something and I make a choice based on that gut feeling, and then it turns out my gut was
spot on,
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then when you don't listen to that and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I told myself.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Like, so I don't know, maybe it's a weird gray area of we don't know what the difference is. And there's theories out there that we used to be much more psychic and communicate on a higher nonverbal level, tens, hundreds of thousands of years ago, before modern language was established. And there is the idea that maybe modern language, and it is an advancement in some ways, but maybe we lost out on that sort of intuition a little bit more. And also
I think so. Yeah.
Also not being necessarily in peril of would-be attackers as often, because now we live in our houses and we live in cities. We don't have to worry about bears or tigers or lions taking us in the middle of the night and eating us alive. We've, through the luxury of modern life, maybe we don't have those initial instincts, and maybe those initial instincts are what they call psychic powers. I don't know. I'm honestly playing like the devil's advocate, because I don't believe in psychic powers. I don't believe in like the Uri Kellers of the world.
Uri Keller, who's that?
He was so this is something I was doing for research. He was a psychic that was popular in like the late 70s and the 80s, and went on like the Carson, Tonight Show and all that shit, and was essentially debunked. But this is something we can get into in a little bit. James Randi, who's a magician and has spent his life not necessarily debunking, but just like trying to, he put out $1 million to anybody who could prove any sort of supernatural or psychic or paranormal powers. And he put that out like 40 years ago or something, maybe even more. And nobody's been able to claim it because nobody's been able to prove it.
What did he put out there?
He put out he basically said like, hey, here's an offer. I will give anybody who can prove to me that you have telepathy, or you have telekinesis, or you have a connection to the paranormal, and you can actually prove it, I will give you $1 million.
Nice.
And nobody's been able to collect that. So it's not like I'm on the side of, quote unquote psychics, but I'm just kind of trying to like, I don't know, go through both sides of the argument. Because there's a weird connection with certain things.
Are there any, did you find any like crazy stories that like try to be an advocate for people and their psychic abilities?
No, not any like crazy stories. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal stuff going around, but that's not proof. Anecdotal
Yeah,
stories
yeah.
like my sister, after our dad died, my sister, I don't remember the exact story, but it's something to do with she was driving and she saw a Porsche 914, which was like, my dad's car when he first started getting into racing. So it kind of holds a special significance or whatever, I guess. She saw that car and she felt a feeling like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go down this certain road. I'm butchering the actual story, but either way, she felt a very severe connection with seeing this car and then making a decision, and then it turned out to be the right decision. And it's basically I don't know, is that just coincidence? And it's sort of it's sort of like the do you know pareidolia? That's the psychological nature of seeing faces in random sort of pattern, or basically seeing the
Yeah,
pattern of a
yeah, like in
face.
clouds or
Yeah.
like,
Or
yeah,
in
yeah.
rocks, like driving up through the canyons. A lot of times your brain is just
Yes.
hot wired to recognize faces evolutionarily, because when we
Mm-hmm.
recognize a face, that means they're part of our tribe and they're going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
be helpful to us.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess the broader term is I think it's apophenia or something like that. Apophenia. Fihine. Fihine. Boy Meets World. Did you ever watch that show?
Long time ago.
Mr. Fine. Yeah, so
Topanga.
dude, Topanga was so fucking hot back in the day. Fuck.
Oh, I remember having a crush on her back in the day. But
Oh
then I
wow.
remember the Boys Meets World like high school episodes, like Topanga and Ross. No,
Corey.
Topanga and Corey's whole thing. I was just like, I don't want to watch this shit. Like, what the fuck are you doing? His
Or
brother was funny though. Anyways,
yeah.
sorry, got very
Absolute random.
distracted.
Oh, I'm the one who brought it up. I should be the one apologizing. But yeah, apophenia is just the human nature of finding patterns where patterns don't truly exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hardwired into all of us because evolutionarily it was beneficial.
Yeah, we seek pattern. I mean, even the mushrooms do it. They follow a pattern as their memory log. So if they like discover food in one cardinal direction, they continue to follow that direction until it ceases to,
Yeah,
be in that direction.
because that's how you survive.
That's a pattern recognition.
Yeah,
That's like, and I think part of why we're so fascinated with it is that that's something that's so deeply embedded in our DNA, like hundreds of millions of years, that all of our like conscious awareness of it, like, I mean, that probably lived before the conscious awareness of like self awareness or self reflection in a deep sense of like what we're fucking talking about. Oh my God, I lost my thought.
I think I know what you're getting at. It's yeah, that was there before
I mean, yeah.
our
So
our
like when it
conscious
lies,
awareness.
yeah. So when it lies beyond our conscious awareness, the unconscious, it's like masked in shadow, and we don't know how to access it. We don't know like where it came from, things like that. And so it always is something that we're always so drawn to, but we can't like find that attachment, that recognition to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's an unspoken connection to those patterns that are developed. And then when somebody is able to tap into those unconscious pattern recognition sort of thoughts, that's when we start calling them a psychic. Even though they're doing it seemingly in a very obvious manipulative way,
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously we're still like, oh shit. Like, so especially with my my understanding of my own psychology with like, autism or whatever, I've noticed I'm very not hyperly aware, but I guess highly susceptible to that kind of pattern recognition. I'm constantly looking for those patterns because that's how my brain is able to make sense of the world.
Yeah. Plus, you also practice what probably brings that up a lot is like when you're playing music, you're sitting there and you're like finding a rhythm and finding a pattern. And so like you get in these trances where like you're just fucking rocking a rhythm and a pattern. And like, you're like my hands right now. And so it's like you practice that mindset a fuck ton.
I really want to edit a big cartoon dick.
A big dick, like
yeah, dude. Fucking when I'm playing guitar, man.
Slap it a beers.
I don't have the skills nor the budget to make that happen, but it would be really funny.
I got you.
All right, send it over, man. I'll send you the clip if you want to edit a dick in there. Fucking feel free.
I'm down, dude. I can just probably take the clip from YouTube.
Well, we got to put it into the actual podcast, so I'd have to send that clip over to you tonight. Have you edit it tomorrow?
I'll edit it, and if it works, we can talk about throwing it on YouTube. But I don't know about that.
All right, we'll see. No, but yeah, that's a big part of what music is recognizing patterns and recognizing when this note works in this situation, this note works in this situation, or this chord works in this situation. Mm-hmm. And it is a very repetitive. It's funny, all the patterns that and connections that I have been making, learning more about autism and just going like, oh, that makes perfect sense. That repetitive behavior, like mm-hmm. That's a very typical typical behavior for somebody who is on the spectrum in some way, is to like have that sort of soothing repetitive behavior, and like mm-hmm. being able to sit down and practice the same thing over and over and over again repeatedly, just like trying to get it perfect. Mm-hmm. And it can be very soothing. But that being said, there's assholes out there that are perfectly willing to take advantage of that natural behavior. I think, with ASD, it's a little bit more pronounced than most people, but everybody has that built within them. Is mm-hmm. that apophenia, or what did I call it? Yeah, apophenia. Jesus. Everyone has that built within them. And it's so easy to take advantage if you know how to sort of just work things in a slightly vague way. It's almost like how conspiracy theorists are putting pieces together mm-hmm. out of things that essentially don't mean anything, but you're finding that pattern, you're finding that flow of the river moving down and just going, this is connected to this, and then this moves to this. Like, everyone always talks about Nostradamus and how all of his predictions, like supposedly he predicted 9/11 was going to happen. And supposedly he predicted that the Great Depression was going to happen.
He just understands like the cyclical nature of societies and shit like that. Oh yeah, some bad shit's going to happen down the road. Maybe it'll be like a fucking, maybe like a great building will fall or some shit.
Yeah. There will be 2 stones that fall in the new city from
all birds. Cloaked in like dope ass like riddles, like
exactly. Yeah. You leave it just vague enough that people will read in their own psychology. It's almost, I kind of think of psychics as almost like a Rorschach test. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. Or like conspiracy theories.
Dude, there's this, they're saying that Nostradamus predicted something in 2022.
Yeah. But that's the thing is,
I want to read it.
All the predictions are so vague and just vague enough that you can just read whatever you want.
You associate and be like, oh, could he be talking about this?
Exactly.
Some ancient alien scientists believe so.
Some ancient alien theorists believe that Nostradamus predicted that humans would encounter aliens in the distant future. When was that future? I don't know. how about right now? Because everything happens. I don't know. Also, I think part of it is the human ego to a certain extent. Like
Oh, totally.
every year, hardcore evangelical and uh, um, essentially, like, I don't know, Bible literalists, they're always able to find something in the book of Revelations that is saying that the end is right now. They've been doing it our whole life. People after 9/11, people were pulling stuff from the book of Revelation saying, like, these are the end times. And it's been 21 years.
The signs of an apocalypse.
Yeah.
And
it just comes back
I think we're always going to be in a perpetual state of potential apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're always going to be at the, might be at the end of times. Times, right?
That's because that's how we've survived as a species for 300,000 years. Paranoia. Yeah. That is what begets you living. Thinking that every bump in the night is a tiger coming to kill you is how we survived for 250,000 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't get rewired very easily.
Yeah.
So we're still living with those same brains, but then also we have the ability to manipulate other people for our own benefits. And I think it's gotten worse since capitalism sort of took over the Western world, because now it's like, oh, I can make a profit by duping these people and sort of playing off of their initial base emotions and their base fears and their base insecurities that are, not necessarily they're not on the surface level. They're built deep within us in our subconscious. And if you know how to sort of trigger those things, you can make a fuckload of money real easy. The preacher, I just looked this up. Who is his name? There's a preacher in like the 1980s. Peter Popoff was exposed in 1986 because basically he was a televangelist style kind of preacher, but he also sort of posed almost as a psychic and would basically have people fill out questionnaires before they came into his church. And then he would wear a earpiece and have his wife basically tell him, like, oh, there's
so he didn't even have like a craft of conversation. He was just fucking rigging the audience.
Yeah. He asked them what their problems were, and then he would go, is there a John in the audience? Can I hear a John in the audience? And
which, by the way, there's always going to be a fucking John in the audience.
Exactly, dude. That's that leading question of like,
yeah,
oh, is there a Peter? Is there a Michael? You're not going to say like, is there a Zedenya, who's the fucking movie star from fucking whatever, Dune and Spider-Man. That's a random name that you're never going to have. But if you call out a John, if you call out a Michael, if you call out a Samantha, if you call out, whatever.
And then you had them fill out a questionnaire, and you got someone on the other side reading stuff for you.
And then you can just say
that audience is gonna get it.
John, the Lord is telling me that you have cancer. Am I right, John? And then John goes, holy fuck, I do have cancer. Holy shit. And let me tell you, John, I'm getting a voice from the other side telling me that it's stage 2 lung cancer. Is that correct, John? And then John stands up and goes, holy fuck, it is correct. And then not only does he believe it, everybody else in the congregation starts going like, oh, holy shit. An energy gets built within the audience, and this sort of like the authority is given to the person who's making all these predictions that he already knew fucking ahead of time.
Yeah.
But it still works the same way. It's almost like a placebo effect. If you believe it, then it works.
I feel like that's just like a redneck collar crime, because, the people who are going to eat that up are people who are like caught under the illusion of like the Messiah complex, of like the returning of Christ, or like, a disciple or whatever to follow. And so when a psychic comes in and is doing that in the South, it's like
amplified.
It's just gonna draw a big crowd.
Yeah.
And get a lot of money and dupe a lot of motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But you're probably from the area because you probably know that those motherfuckers are like that. Anyways, I'm watching the Righteous Gemstones the past few nights.
Oh, I've been meaning to start watching that. It looks amazing.
It's a good one. It's about
what's his name?
It's like about this Pentecostal family who's just like rich as fuck in South Carolina. Danny
McBride.
Danny McBride is in it.
Yeah. Adam Devine.
That's the younger brother. Yeah, they play brothers.
Yeah.
I forget who plays their sister, but she plays a really good crazy bitch in a couple movies, and they brought her in to be the sister. She crushes it. I forget her name though. I watched it. I didn't like the first 2 episodes. I was like, it kind of sucks. And I stopped watching it for like a year or so. And then I just put on the 3rd episode the other night and I got sucked in. I'm in season 2 already. It's good, man. But it shows how this happens,
Yeah.
Especially in these really big conservative religious states.
Well, at a certain point, it almost kind of comes down to groupthink. And there's been studies there's been studies of if you tell a certain group of people, I'm probably fucking this up royally, but if you tell a certain group of people that there's an infectious disease, it's basically like the sort of like the placebo effect, but psychosomatic illness, where if you convince people that they have an illness, they will start exhibiting the signs of that illness.
Yeah.
Which that alone is really wild and kind of ties in with the idea of psychics in terms of if you believe hard enough, then it will come to fruition. I don't know. I'm having trouble phrasing it the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm feeling insecure about that. But groupthink and mob mentality, fuck, this has been going on for as long as history has been going on. This is how the Nazis gained power. Just people are so concerned about sort of being ostracized from their society that they will essentially go against their logical or moral or just humanistic beliefs.
They'll do what it takes to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is.
I don't blame you, motherfuckers.
Yeah. No, I don't either. But this is, that's an extreme example to bring up Nazis, which I end up bringing up Nazis probably too often. I'm just.
Hey man, we gotta learn from our fucking history, dude.
Yeah. But still, Nazis.
Or else they were fucking doomed to repeat it. That would fucking suck.
Yeah.
Dude, they're a fascinating subject study, and it spans a lot of fucking topics. Yeah. But why did you bring them up?
Well, I was bringing them up as a comparison of just how groupthink can take over a population.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to be sort of, if somebody can connect to the culture in a way that you don't, I don't know.
What's it called? PSYOPs?
Psychological operations. And Black Hawk helicopters. And, this is another thing I want to bring up, folks. And ladies and gentlemen, MK Ultra, they were doing experiments on children to, increase their psychic abilities. And that's written fact, ladies and gentlemen. And remote viewing is supposedly a real operation that was performed by the CEA in 1957. I have all the documents to prove it. And the Nazis. So, okay, fucking whatever. Jesus Christ, dude. Get your shit together. That's me talking to me.
I think you're doing great,
So I brought up Madame Helena Blavatsky earlier.
Mhm.
She was essentially the sort of the originator of theosophy, which is sort of a psychic occult combination that ended up, her books influenced. This came up during the late 1800s. I think her books were written in like 1880 something, 1890 something. But right during the height of sort of the spiritualistic movement, which is also ironically where Mormonism kind of got its roots from, in the same time period in America, where everyone always says that America is a Christian nation, and we're fucking not. All the founders of our country were essentially atheists, or at least agnostics. They weren't, spiritualistic people. And then spiritualism took over in the mid 1800s and ran through, and that's where Mormonism comes from. But Madame Helena Blavatsky was essentially the originator of the idea of the whole Aryan race.
Yeah, I've heard about her before.
The Hitler and the Nazis kind of took it, in a different direction that she initially took it from.
Mhm.
And that's actually where the Nazis got the swastika from, is Madame Helena Blavatsky going to India and sort of researching sort of this Eastern mysticism, and then just sort of weaving it into more of what we would call an occult sort of background nowadays.
Mhm.
Blavatsky just kind of sounds like it sounds like somebody throwing up.
Yeah, it's not
You know what I
the
mean? It's like,
prettiest
oh,
sound.
Blavatsky! Blavatsky! It's not the most attractive name, and also not the
That's
most
dead
attractive
on.
lady.
That's dead on. Yeah, she's definitely not a looker. That's all right though.
Not a looker.
I don't think looks like she grew up in the harsh Siberian uh forests, like just covered in just like 7 wool dresses and like 3 scarves, and she's just like has to be a fucking beast, you know.
Well, I
She's
mean,
just like living a hard life.
technically born in Ukraine, but at that point, Ukraine was still part of the Russian Empire. So
Oh, so
I
she's
don't
not
know.
Siberian. Okay. Look, a little
Eh,
different. A little different.
same at a certain point. But I mean, if you look at Russia now, it looks like it was made in 1910. So imagine growing up in like the Russian Empire in the middle of the 1800s.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a lot of prosperity going on. You're
Not
eating
too
a lot of
much.
beets and a lot of potatoes, and that's about
That
it.
that was still under the Tsar, right? Because that was until 1910 or 15 or something.
Yeah, I think
It's like one of the last monarchies kind of hanging around.
yeah, I think the czars were displaced. Like, it was in the middle of World War One, correct? That's when the Russian Revolution happened, and that's why they dropped out of World War
Yeah, I think you're right.
One. But that also brings up what we were gonna talk about, I guess, is fucking Rasputin.
Rasputin.
Another kind of same kind of figure of just like, I don't know. Part of me kind of thinks is Rasputin just kind of looks like a fucking wizard. He's got that fucking gross long beard, and maybe it's a certain point of like fake it till you make it kind of idea of
Yeah,
like, if you look the part, like dress for the job you want. He dressed like a fucking wizard. So
I was talking to my
be the
friend the
bomb.
other day about Rasputin, funny enough, and she was like, dude, he's like the original crusty goth. And I was like, what the fuck is a crusty goth? And it's like the crossover of like a train hobo and like a gothic person.
Yeah,
And it was like this whole like crusty goth fashion.
he was
And
steampunk.
he was the OG crusty goth for sure.
He was steampunk before steampunk was a thing.
Totally.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like, he's the
Like how
OG.
Poe was goth before goth there was goth.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poe was a G. Edgar Allan Poe was fucking rad as fuck. Died of
Fair.
alcohol poisoning in a fucking sewer, but also might have been killed and
Yeah,
beaten up. But
he had a bummer. He had a rough go of it. It seems.
yeah, it shows in its art.
Yeah.
You know, fucking quoth the raven nevermore. I wonder if that was his last thought right before he died. Quoth the raven nevermore. How fucking cool would that be? Just
Legendary.
as your final thought to say that,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like, oh, what the fuck, man? Oh, like,
Yeah, that'd be pretty fucking legendary,
it'd
man.
be way better than that. Or like, just fucking like, I thought this was Applebee's. That's not a fun death thought, but if you fucking say, quote the raven nevermore,
Was that person dying after eating Applebee's?
I don't know. I just can't. It showed up.
Hey, it's probably happened. It's probably been someone's famous last words.
Probably. But I'm making a decision right now. When I die, if I know that I'm dying, I'm going to say, quote the raven nevermore.
I think that's a great idea.
And then everyone in the room is going to be confused as fuck.
You'll probably get like a slow clap.
I mean, that's a way to go. Slow clap to death. Also, another great album name, Slow Clap to Death. All right, but yeah, Rasputin. So it seems like all of these historical figures, Nostradamus, Helena Blavatsky, Rasputin, even into like modern day times without who's that who was the famous psychic that South Park ripped on? Tony? No.
Can't remember.
John Edward. He was like the famous one that South Park roasted. It just, there's a through line, and Joseph Smith, the starter of Mormonism, falls in the same line of just like there's a through line of just duping people and being sort of that con man and being able to play on people's id and play on their subconscious in just enough of a way to fool them into believing you, and then you get your cash, you roll out of town. Rasputin's a little bit different of a story, but he's still kind of like, he was making money. He was making money from the Russian oligarchs and the czars.
Yeah.
Their personal personal sort of foreseer or soothsayer.
Yeah, they I think the last podcast on the left said it well, where they said Rasputin didn't want to like be the one in power, but he wanted to be surrounded by the people in power. And so it's like, but he was still pretty it seems like he's a fucking sociopath, and like John Adams and stuff, like leached on that kind of whole psychic realm to like manipulate people.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, if you're a sociopath and you have the cognitive capabilities to be able to dupe people or persuade people in this certain way.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's a thing that happens all the time.
I don't know if it happens all the time. I don't know how many psychics there are out there. Although in my Googling, I did find that there was like 6 psychic centers or like stores, whatever, within like 5 miles of me. Maybe that's because I live in Boulder and people are a little bit more susceptible to that. I don't know, that woo-woo kind of nature. But one of them has a fucking office on Pearl Street, which is like the most expensive real estate in all of Boulder. So they have to be fucking making money, which means they have to have clients that are calling in. I almost wanted to do for this. It was $10 for an over-the-phone psychic reading. I almost wanted to pay the $10 and like just put that fucking cord into the phone and just see what happens. But I decided not to.
Can we do that? We don't need to post it, but if you and me did it.
Oh, if we're doing it, we're gonna post it.
I mean,
I
dude,
wouldn't do it just for fucking shits and giggles.
there might be like infringement issues. It's not like anyone's really going to discover that we're doing it, but it's so. I mean, but I would love to listen in on that conversation.
I would take a chance on it.
Take a chance on it.
I was literally, before you started singing that, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Thank God.
On me.
I'm not a proud ABBA.
All right. Well, it seems like we're kind of burning through the energy. Seems like your edible's kicking in pretty hard. So,
dude, I am so sorry, man. I am so fucking high right now. I'm trying so hard. Is it pretty bad?
This is my thought. Is there's the theory that psychedelics or marijuana, even though it technically is a psychedelic, whatever, can potentially enhance one's psychic ability. Do you want to do a test?
All right, let's do it, bro.
So, I've written down 20 numbers, 1 through 10. Do you want to see how many you can guess correctly?
I just have to guess a number 1 through 10 20 times?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And for anybody watching, Danny hasn't seen this list. I have not presented this list. I created these numbers totally randomly, maybe an hour and a half ago. So,
is it 0 through 9 or is it 1 through 10?
1 through 10.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
All right, let's do 4, 2, 8, 8, 5, 6, 10, 1, 9, 3, 7, 10, 4, 4, 1, 3, 2, 6, 5, 5, 6, 7.
Well, you go what?
Is that too much? 2, 6, 5, 9, 7, 8.
You just.
I'm so in my brain, I'm rationally trying to just get a good spread, so I don't feel psychic at all.
You went too many. Okay.
Too many times.
I've adjusted it to reflect what your actual answers were. I think you got 3 right.
Hooey.
Let's see here. 1.
That is not a good average.
No, you got 3 out of 20. So
spicy.
Oh no, sorry. You got 4 out of 20.
I got 420 and I'm high as shit. You can't beat that.
Numerology, bro. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's just reading into fucking things.
Just tilt that ratio horizontal. 420. That's your birthday, bro. That's your birthday. That means something out there is trying to communicate to us. A connection between us. I guess the correct amount for your birthday. Something is connecting us. You here, me, and here. What could it, but for real.
I think the edible is fully kicked in at this point.
Oh yeah. Am I missing on some social cues right now?
I couldn't tell you. I'm autistic, so I don't know. I'm having trouble finding out how to contribute to this because I'm clearly not on the same level.
Dude, I'm enjoying the conversation, dude. I learned that I'm not psychic, and that we love weed, or maybe I am psychic because my guess 420, and here we are now talking about weed.
All of your predictions are just things that we talked about.
There's this intuition that is telling me that in a couple minutes, you guys are going to be talking about weed. And it's not because you're a fucking stoner. And it's not because you have a problem. But it's because it's just because. And now you psychically guessed it.
No, it's because you ate weed. And then now we're dramatically seeing the effects of that weed taking place. And
Yeah,
also
yeah.
all of your like predictions that you just had were just things that we talked about literally 5 minutes ago. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that qualifies as like a true prediction. Are you coming with me, bud?
I got you.
I feel like I'm talking to David Tucker right now.
Really?
Just like, hey bud, you coming
Oh.
along? You coming along? You following the train of thought?
Yeah, there's a bounce. Stay with us.
Hey bud, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, bud. Hey, I need you to come. David. I need you to come back, bud. Come on.
That was perfect. Fuck yeah. I think that's a great ender for the podcast. I know that we did not get into Rasputin like at all, but that's okay.
This is going to be so much editing, to be totally just brutally honest.
You're welcome. Sorry. Look how stoned my fucking eyes look.
You don't look that bad.
No, that was good.